We're back. Arbitrum ecosystem update number 43. Guys, what's going on? Hunter back again. Another video. As usual, nothing in this is financial advice, and everything I say is my opinion and my opinion alone. So we're jumping right into it. We have a lot of stuff to cover. For some reason, while I'm here in Denver, there seems to be a lot of stuff going on. No idea why. Rest in peace to my voice. Let's jump into it. First news of the day is a tweet by myself. I say, Arbinauts, come to the Arbitrum Community Day tomorrow in Denver. And I put a link to Arbitrum GovHack. So for those of you who don't know, the past day or so, yesterday, today, and tomorrow is essentially an event called Arbitrum GovHack. Multi-day event, pretty much people within the Arbitrum community, more particularly within the Arbitrum DAO, kind of joining together to work and essentially create proposals, brainstorm, and has come up with ideas to help grow the Arbitrum community through the DAO. The third day, which is tomorrow, or if depending on when you're watching this, might be even today, is the Arbitrum Community Open Day. So if you're not involved in the DAO, but you're just interested in Arbitrum related stuff and you want to maybe network with the rest of the ecosystem, definitely make sure you come to the to the actual venue tomorrow. It'll be at the Oxford Hotel in Denver. So I'll be there for the most of the day, to be honest. So you'll probably be able to catch me there, or anyone else within the Arbitrum community, including people from the foundation as well. So very exciting stuff. I went back there today actually, and just the amount of mind share going on right now is it's incredible. Just to see so many people from the Arbitrum ecosystem in one place is really, really cool. And you can tell everyone's very, very kind of I don't know. They feel very strongly about it, and I love it. My screen just turned black. Very weird. Anyways, all right, let's keep going. Next tweet, we have a tweet from Open Eden. And before I get into this tweet real quick, I just wanted to maybe flag a little bit. I'm open to comments on this. I might start just also maybe showcasing when projects launch on Arbitrum as well. I'll definitely have to make sure to remind everyone that none of this is financial advice. I'm not getting paid to showcase any of these projects or anything like that. But I figure it helps projects grow on Arbitrum, and assuming they're not a rug, it's a good thing. Because that's the biggest problem, right? Anyways, let's read what Open Eden says. Open Eden says, today we are pleased to announce a strategic integration between Open Eden Labs and Arbitrum. This marks a synergistic alliance between the first T-bill vault built natively on-chain on the largest layer 2 ecosystem on Ethereum. TradFi money market rates equals Arbitrum. Is that an equal sign? I don't even know. For what it's worth, real-world assets has been another kind of big field, I guess, that's been growing on Arbitrum the past couple of months. It's funny because I think because DeFi is such a big sector in Arbitrum, it's a little tough to it's kind of hard to see the other sections of crypto growing within Arbitrum, right? Gaming being one of the other big behemoths that's been coming up the last couple of months. You could probably argue that's the next biggest to gaming now. The next biggest to DeFi now is gaming. But real world assets has also been definitely one area within the Arbitrum ecosystem that has been having slow and steady growth. And frankly, real world assets are technically a part of DeFi, so you could argue it's kind of already native in there. Nonetheless, shout out to Open Eden Labs for the launch, and look forward to seeing what you guys build in the ecosystem. We have a tweet here by Tomas Tungas. I'm not going to read this entire thing. It's essentially an office hours. It looks kind of like essentially like a YouTube video of Thomas talking with Stephen Goldfeder, the CEO, co-founder of Offchain Labs. And it's essentially a nod to community source licensing being the future of open source software. I wanted to go ahead and comment on this real quick. In that, for those of you who don't know, this is I assume this is kind of in relation to the Arbitrum Orbit stack, essentially. In it that currently the way the Arbitrum Orbit chain ecosystem works is you can pretty much deploy an Orbit chain permissionlessly on any Arbitrum chain. So if you want to deploy a chain on Arbitrum 1 or on Arbitrum Nova, then you can go ahead and do that without anyone's permission. You can just launch it and do whatever you want with it. And in that way, you have full freedom, full control over what you're building, and the DAO also receives, you could say compensation, whether it's monetary or otherwise, through that, right? So you don't really need to kind of bake anything in. Whereas the newer form of being able to deploy an Orbit chain, I think it was called the Arbitrum Expansion Program, which essentially allows you to deploy an Orbit chain on any other layer 2 or even Ethereum itself. So a layer 2 actually Orbit chain. I think that's kind of where Thomas kind of hints at Arbitrum kind of having its own option with the community source license. And I think the main reason why you may see I would probably agree with him here. why maybe the future of open source software is because as amazing as open source software is, like you'll always have the issue of like copycats, which she kind of talks about here. That's not and that alone is not a reason to not have anything to be open source, but I do think having community source licenses, essentially licenses that allow anyone to use the software as long as the community that created it is benefiting from it, I think is key. Because to be clear here, while Offchain Labs created Arbitrum, it's not like Offchain Labs only benefits from the proliferation of Arbitrum stack chains through the expansion program, right? It's actually the Arbitrum DAO, because the way it currently works is that if you do want to deploy an Arbitrum chain on a different L2 or as an L2 itself on Ethereum, you have to pay 10% of those fees back to sequencer fees back to the DAO. And I think 8% technically goes to the DAO treasury itself, and I think 2% will end up going to teams building out Arbitrum technology, in the future. So I think community source software is a lot more sustainable. And like if you know me, I'm a big proponent of having things be self-sustainable and not just funded out of people's goodwill. Just because, it's I don't know. Is that a weird thing? Is that a controversial thing to say? I'm a big fan of like trust but verify. I'm a big fan of creating frameworks and systems that are able to kind of self-fund themselves versus relying on the generosity of others. And I think to create a sustainable ecosystem that lasts a long, long time, you need to have software that kind of embodies that. That's just my personal opinion. Again, I do work at Offchain Labs, but all this is just me spitballing here. So, anyways, probably a really good video. I haven't actually seen it yet, but nonetheless, definitely feel free to take a look. I think there actually might be even some sort of snapshot vote going on here as well. Frankly, I probably should have read the actual tweet itself before talking too much about it, but nonetheless, yeah, feel free to take a look. Of course, the tweet and everything else I will mention here in this video is in the description below. We have a tweet here by LimeChain. LimeChain says, "We are happy to announce that LimeChain has been awarded a grant by the Arbitrum Foundation to help improve Arbitrum Stylus' developer experience." This is really exciting. I'm actually going to go ahead and scroll down to a couple tweets here so we can kind of cover it. Here they say, "Our research showed that in addition to language diversity, Stylus can also bring significant gas optimizations." And they kind of give an example here of like the difference between Stylus and Solidity and kind of the different kind of gas costs that you end up getting depending on the actual function, for example, for ERC20 tokens. Now here there actually isn't that much of a gas cost difference necessarily, but I do think that, for what it's worth, it also depends, by the way. I mean, like here it says like 81%. That's crazy. It really depends on what you're actually like developing, right? So anything that'll be computationally heavy will definitely fall into the category of being a lot more cheaper on Stylus versus in Solidity. But they continue on here to say that with our grants, we'll be working on the extension of Cargo Stylus with the sole goal of streamlining and improving the developer experience on Stylus. Very exciting stuff. Like I said, I do think it's funny because I remember at some point someone had essentially called Arbitrum the Ethereum of layer 2s, and it's so accurate. Like it's so accurate in that it's like I feel like the ecosystem is focused essentially on maximum decentralization, but also like with the addition of like maximum flexibility and freedom. Yeah, in essentially like the stack itself. So I think having external developers starting to come in and pretty much contributing to the stack itself through innovative languages, innovative upgrades like Stylus is really what's going to propel not only Arbitrum but Ethereum as a whole. Like the one thing to remember, and I think I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, but like the upgrades that and the different updates that L2s see, they don't have to be specific to those L2s, right? It's definitely possible that you could see one day, assuming Stylus goes well on Arbitrum, it's extremely adopted and it really does become a competitor, a competitive language software, language structure versus other L1s. I would argue you could probably see it on Ethereum. Maybe one day being proposed to mainnet. This is obviously me thinking probably a little far in the future, but the point I think for L2s is to experiment and to really scale Ethereum as far as possible from like a throughput standpoint, but also from like a development standpoint. And I would not put the idea of upgrades on L2 moving down to L1 versus right now what's happening, right? Because right now it's like upgrades happening on L1. L2s are obviously going to adopt them, kind of like EIP 4844. But nonetheless, very excited for LimeChain. Shout outs to those guys. I'm looking forward to even more teams contributing to Stylus and Arbitrum as a whole. All right, we have a post here by Phoenix. This is actually from a panel that happened earlier today at ETH Denver, but I wanted to highlight what I think Lior from Phoenix said. He said, we chose Arbitrum because the nitro fraud proofs were a great choice for FHE. FHE is fully homomorphic encryption. Now, I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew exactly what that was. My understanding is that essentially Phoenix is essentially creating a fully encrypted chain. In that, like it's essentially like a privacy-based chain using fully homomorphic encryption. I say that I spell it out, by the way, because it makes me sound a lot cooler. But it's definitely it's kind of funny because it's like one of the few things that I'll say one of the few things. One of the few things that like builders who really do care about decentralization and like product readiness will always mention fraud proofs, Stylus, of course, and even the fact that like Bold will hopefully be coming out this year. The whole idea of not the whole idea, but it's permissionless validation essentially for Arbitrum chains. It's kind of funny because I do think that especially in a bull market, it's really easy to forget that like we are all trying to build decentralized systems. Of course, the latest L1 will always take precedent over almost anything else. But it's always satisfying to hear statements like these. Even today, I was talking to a couple of builders, and it's so funny because so many of them have reiterated to me that the right people care about what you guys are doing, versus like other people kind of just focusing more on marketing or like narrative driving. It hits different audiences. I get that. But sometimes it's like, sometimes like marketing from certain teams are just so much and like the narrative is just so strong that, it really gets to a boy sometimes. You may know who I'm talking about. If you don't, then just talk to me in person. But nonetheless, shout outs to Phoenix. I love to see, developers, being happy about, the Nitro system, and of course having it be fully complete. Also just empowers them to create, next generation, apps and scaling solutions like Phoenix. I'm really excited, honestly, to see what Phoenix ends up creating, though. Very exciting. All right, here we have a tweet from Carol from Treasure. Carol says, I'm not gonna read the entire thing because it's quite long, but I'll read the top part and then I'll kind of give my little TLDR on the situation as I understand it. Carol essentially says it's frustrating to see the Arbitrum Gaming Catalyst program being stalled before even getting to the forum. It was close. But what we're seeing now is a classic symptom of DAOs: too many cooks in the kitchen, and attempts to craft the perfect framework and penny pinching to optimize for direct economic ROI versus doing what we need to do: catalyze gaming on Arbitrum. And you can read the rest of the tweet if you'd like. I want to touch on two things here, mostly. One that you already heard me mention it. Gaming on Arbitrum is definitely one of the emerging, verticals that Arbitrum is starting to be a lot more known for versus DeFi. This is of course coming off the heels of STIP, which is mainly DeFi focused, and of course even the long-term version of STIP that just actually passed the DAO, voting period. Those of you might not know, it may not be obvious, but it's a lot easier to measure ROI on DeFi projects than it is gaming. DeFi projects, because it's literally all of it's on chain, and it's all DeFi. It's literally all literally on chain. So you can pretty much see the effects of incentives within a protocol versus when it doesn't have incentives. And I think Gauntlet or someone else made a really, really good graph actually detailing the effects of STIP during the last couple months time period versus if there were no incentives in the kind of the TVL and of Arbitrum and all that other stuff. It was a really good chart actually, but you can do that with gaming, right? And what Carell says here is catalyzing it in particular. And I would definitely agree. Like gaming on Arbitrum, while there have been a ton of teams growing, and while there are already a ton of teams building on Arbitrum, honestly, like Treasure, like Zai, like Pixel Vault, like Pirate Nation Proof of Play, like all these different games. There definitely is a lot more room for gaming to grow, a lot more room for ecosystems to start being created on Arbitrum again. And definitely funding from the DAO, I think, would obviously help catalyze even more gaming activity, right? Because I mean, I think Carell mentions it in this tweet here, but the gaming kind of market, like for like acquiring games and whatnot, like the different L2s, different chains trying to acquire games, it's very competitive, extremely competitive. If you saw the Ape Chain proposal that you probably saw if you've been watching this video, that was very very like it was really to the wire. It was like between Arbitrum, Polygon, ZK Sync. And I think Optimism as well, who was kind of competing for that. But even behind the scenes, there's a lot more kind of teams trying to compete with each other for different gaming teams and protocols, and whatnot. What I will say is that like I'm definitely in agreement that, and again, my opinion alone, just to be clear. I really have no technically effect on any of this stuff since he's talking about the DAO. But I definitely agree that like you really cannot craft a perfect framework. It just doesn't exist. It's the same reason why STIP was created. STIP was created not to be a solution to anything. It was more kind of just, hey, like we need to do something now just to see what happens. Which obviously you don't want to do every time because that's not efficient. But I think STIP was kind of like the first step in showing people that the DAO can do something. Now, you could argue that maybe with programs going forward that you really should have some sort of measuring system or some sort of like ROI thing that you can kind of measure things based off of, so we're not just draining the treasury. But gaming is definitely a different beast than it is from DeFi. And for what it's worth, I'm not sure if it's maybe even worth hitting the forums with the Catalyst program proposal first, and then trying to have this conversation of like ROI. Because I do think, because guys, Carell does say here that it's being stalled before even hitting the forum. So what that tells me is that he's probably talking to members of the DAO, and members of the DAO are probably saying, yeah, like we like it, but we don't know if it'll be worth the money. Essentially, I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what they're getting from it. So I don't know. I would almost argue maybe it's worth hitting the forum with it, seeing what the community thinks, and really just trying to rally behind that, and trying to come up with some way that can like where it makes sense to have a proposal like this pass, and also like say, hey guys, like this isn't only benefiting Treasure, it's not only benefiting Zai, it's not only benefiting the current gaming projects on Arbitrum, it'll benefit all the other ones that currently exist, as well as new ones that hopefully come on. I think that's a really, really important thing. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, and that was really long, oh my god, I apologize. The other thing I wanted to mention too is the some of the community members from the Treasure, some of the Treasure community members in the comments. I think a lot, like I get it. I think if you're only in the Treasure community, then I guess I can see why you would just kind of just like hop on and say, okay, well, you know what, like Arbitrum, what are you doing? You're messing up. Like, fix your shit. Like, I don't know. I don't know how many times I have to tell people. It's like just tweeting something out like that doesn't really do anything. If you want to vent, I get it. It's totally understandable. But I think the best way to help Treasure or Carell or the entire ecosystem in this case is to get involved in the conversation. Whether it's directly with the Treasure team if you're a community member, or if it's directly in the Arbitrum forums, socializing with delegates. Like that's the only way you can really make a change. Not just saying, hey, Arbitrum, get your shit together, or we're gonna move somewhere else. Like, you're really not doing anything, of substance there, in my opinion. So, this is coming from someone, by the way. Obviously, like I have a ton of small brains. I have a ton of treasures, magic. So I am just as invested into Treasure as a lot of other people in the community. So just want to be clear about that. Big fan of what they do, but yeah, that's my feedback. I don't know. Hopefully that was the right thing to say. Hopefully no one gets pissed off at me. I think that was a pretty level-headed thing to say, but I don't know. All of that, by the way, is hot off the heels of a big announcement by the Arbitrum Foundation called Arbitrum Arcade. Starting March 11th, it'll be an 8-week on-chain game-a-thon with 24 Arbitrum-based games designed to highlight Web3's most innovative gaming experiences in collaboration with Click, built on EAS. Very, very exciting initiative. You have essentially like almost all of the teams building on the Arbitrum ecosystem here involved in the Arbitrum Arcade. Very, very exciting stuff. $200,000 in cash prizes for creators, as well as the ability to win 3 custom gaming PCs. Yeah, the gaming PCs are going. I imagine are going to be very, very powerful. A lot more powerful than the laptop I'm recording this thing on. But very exciting stuff. So like, and I think that just shows you that like there is a very clear push to make sure gaming on Arbitrum becomes a thing, becomes a staple, just as much as DeFi is. So yeah, shout out to the foundation on that announcement. Looks like it'll actually begin, like I said, on March 11th. So if you're a creator, make sure to apply through the form here. I think it's sign up here. Make sure to apply to, in the form through the portal. And if you're a game, I think you actually also have the ability to maybe even deploy. Yeah, as a gaming team, you can deploy your game on Arbitrum 1, Nova, or an Orbit by April 15th with the opportunity to join on the last week of the campaign after applying to take part. And this also links back to the portal as well. So definitely make sure to take a look. And yeah, really exciting stuff. Yep, speaking of Zai, look at that. Obviously, you gotta have a little tweet here from Sobi. Shouts to Sobi. This isn't related to crypto, but a little bit. Sobi says here, worst health of my life, man. Sigh, I need to get it together for real. So, first of all, I hope Sobi's okay. I'm sure he's fine. But I wanted to highlight this for a second. All of us are very deep into crypto. All of us are very deep into the tech, the trading, the money, the ecosystem, the community. We're very deep into crypto, and sometimes I feel like because we're like so. And this is talking about myself. I'm not calling you any of this. So if it applies to you, it applies to you. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. Like it's easy to get carried away with what you're kind of focusing on, and to kind of forego like the important things you need to survive, like eating healthy, going outside, taking a walk, enjoying nature, speaking with people, being social. I think that like it's it's part of the reason why I like coming to these conferences every once in a while is because it really gets you like excited again to kind of just be out here, build them with the people, and it reminds you that yeah, you got to be healthy to be able to do this shit, dude. Like you got to be able to be not only like physically healthy, working out, eating right, but also like mentally healthy, bro. Like if all you do all day is just like crypto Twitter and trading and looking at charts, I don't know. That's no life to me. Like I couldn't do that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I burned out like once or twice while being in crypto. And it sucks, and that's just because I wasn't able to moderate my exposure, I guess, enough, and I wasn't eating right and all that other stuff. Even now, like I'm not perfect in any way. I try to hit the gym every other day, run a mile real quick, and then I'm done. 7-minute gym time. I drink water, but like that's it. I don't know. I just wanted to highlight that just to say that health is wealth at the end of the day. And you got to make sure you're on top of that stuff. This isn't me talking directly to Sobi, by the way. The fact that Sobi tweeted this, by the way, very, very commendable. Most people would never tweet that. So I just want to say that, yeah, for sure, man. Like, shouts to Sobi for tweeting that out. And it really making me think about that the other day, man. I was kind of like contemplating. I'm like, damn, it's cool, man, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who literally have like the same thought and feel the same way, and maybe it feels like they're kind of alone, I'm getting a little deep here, but anyways, shout out to Sobi for that. I really appreciated you tweeting that out, man. And lastly, as usual, little shill beneath the layers. Beneath the Layers, community-focused show dedicated to showcasing entrepreneurs in Web3 and telling their stories. Pretty much a podcast hosted by me. I spoke with a couple builders already. Jill from the CSO at Espresso Systems. We had, there we go, Ellie from Starkware. We had G-Funk from Pixel Vault, and a ton of other great guests kind of hopping on the show. I literally interviewed someone today, so definitely keep a lookout for that. Probably come out like in 2 weeks from now, to be honest. So yeah, you can hold your horses. But all this stuff is available on X, YouTube, Spotify, etc., all those different platforms. But yeah, that being said, this is the longest episode I've ever done, 24 minutes. Jesus Christ. Guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one, all right? Peace out.